Hey, this is Paul Colligan, and this is Ask Paul Colligan Live. This is episode number 1. I am starting this largely as a test, but I'll tell you right now, I am really excited about the potential of what this Spreaker platform has for us, what live broadcasting has for us, and some of the options that are out there. So there's some content here today, but there's also some experimentation, and there's just some really exciting stuff. So there's a really interesting podcast marketing theme that popped up when I asked everybody on Facebook questions for me to answer today, which I guess makes a lot of sense. I've been doing a lot of work in podcasting, and it would make sense that the audience would ask about that. So that's fun. All of today's questions have something to do with podcasting. It looks like Spreaker gives me a limit of about 30 minutes, so I'll try to keep that done on today's episode. I don't think I'll pop over that. That should be fine. I'm using Spreaker as the platform here, as the management for all this. Information about the company is available at Spreaker.com, and I think it's Spreaker.com/Paul Colligan or something like that. You can search there. Spreaker gives me a lot of capacity and a lot of capabilities, and I'll be trying those in further episodes, but just using my new media content creation model, I knew that I had to, well, gosh darn it, get something out there live and produce something. So that is what today is about. Nothing very fancy other than the fact that I'm broadcasting live to the world through this interface. I find that to be pretty cool. So I have 4 questions today, and then we'll close up and we will go from there. Thank you so much. Let's get to our first question. When should I put things on YouTube and when should I podcast them instead? You see, the thing is here, podcasting and YouTube, and in most people's minds, are two entirely different platforms. You know, we think of podcasting, we think of people with earbuds going for a run, or maybe they're in the car catching up on something on the way to work. You know, and YouTube, we have this vision of kids in front of their computers watching people get hit in the head with bricks, And the idea is that, some content goes better in different places. I think that's the soul of this question. And let's be honest, if some content, if good content goes in different places, then they deserve different approaches. And then a question like, when should I put something on YouTube and when should I podcast something begins to make a lot of sense. But here's the thing. Here's the big what if. What if they're not different platforms at all? But what if there are different ways to reach different people and audiences with the same message? Then things become really, really interesting. You don't sit down and say, when should I put this on YouTube and when should I podcast this? You say, how many different places can I get this out? Now, some of you are listening to this right now as I broadcast this live on Spreaker. For those of you who are live, welcome. A lot of fun. For those of you who aren't live and you're listening to this someplace else, maybe a recording of this, welcome. Judo Cruz says hello. Thank you, Judo. That's kind of fun to have you on this live. But the fact of the matter is, I'm recording a number of things right now. I'm recording a live stream for my audience. I'm recording a extended podcast, all of these questions, where many of you are listening to this too. And then I'm probably going to chop this up as well. Okay, Paul, but it's still all audio. Well, yes, it is still all audio, but right now I'm experimenting with this. I'm talking about getting maybe a camera in front of me, and not the most beautiful Brad Pitt guy in the world to look in front of, but I can do enough to make this kind of interesting in video. And I could produce a video podcast and an audio podcast. I could produce an audio stream. I could produce a YouTube stream. I could produce a live casting stream. We see a bunch of people doing this. On the big nerd side of things, there is the Twit Network with Leo Laporte and those guys. They have done a wonderful job of making this work, but it's not just them. One of my heroes in broadcasting is a guy by the name of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey actually, he does hours of his audio show, and then he has the video version. A lot of people think they're different. No, that's actually where he records his audio show. So the thing is, if you begin to think smart and you begin to think logically, you create a format that as many people as possible can consume when and where and how they want. Video on YouTube for people who like it, live for people who like it, on demand for people who like it, audio for people who like it, Kindle and text for people who like it, all these different people for people who like it. And then what's great is it ceases to become a question of which platform do I play on, And it becomes a question of what kind of content do I have? So, to the question, when should I put things on YouTube? When should I podcast them? I say when and where, if at all possible, put them everywhere. And if you can't put them everywhere, maybe re-examine your show so that you can find one that you can put everywhere. That's my thought. That's my answer to your question. Talk to you next episode. Now, of course, I'm not really doing this next episode. This is a live recording, and I'm recording a bunch of these. The idea is my editor is going to come in and is going to chop these up to make these different episodes. I'm going to readjust my seat. You're probably going to hear a squeak here. This is fun. This seems to be working well. Judo, you're on this live. If you want to let me know if this sounds okay, that would be fascinating. But with that said and done, let's get to the next question. The next question is this. Why are you exploring Spreaker, and what are the differences between it and Blog Talk Radio? Well, right now, some of you listening to this don't know what either one of these terms are, so let's speak to that. Blog Talk Radio was one of the early games in internet streaming that let you go out and produce your content like a podcast. They were one of the first. They've certainly been around for a great deal of time, and they have that segment of the internet. Spreaker is the latest one to do that kind of thing. Spreaker brings in a bunch of things that Blog Talk doesn't have, but the fact of the matter is, in the grand scheme of things, they're the same thing. Now, what's interesting is, the person who comes second always has the benefit of doing better than the person who came first. So Spreaker definitely has that. But you take Blog Talk Radio, and there's been a lot of criticism about Blog Talk Radio, and some of it very, very warranted. I'll say right now, if you want to track kind of what's happening in the world of Blog Talk Radio, you can take a look at Dave Jackson over at the School of Podcasting and what he said there. There's just some issues to who owns the content, what happens with advertising, this type of thing. Honestly, I've heard rumors that Blog Talk Radio is cleaning up their act, getting better, less restrictive in their ownership and that type of thing. If that happens, maybe I'll change the game. But right now, Spreaker is just better technology with less restrictive ownership and the wonderful world of streaming apps. And I will be honest, Blog Talk Radio kind of really, really frustrated me in the past. And again, if they get to a position in life where they get better, then I'm thrilled to take a look at that. But I like what Spreaker's got. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things that Spreaker has that's really, really interesting is Spreaker has a relationship with iHeartRadio. And the possibility to get your show on iHeartRadio is something really, really possible inside of Spreaker. And that's something that I certainly am going to investigate. Now, I explored this in a past episode of the Podcast Report. Probably should have a screen open where I know what number that is. But if you just search for the Podcast Report, iHeartRadio, Dave Jackson, that type of thing, you'll find that episode here. But, better quality, fascinating partnerships, less restrictive ownerships, the world of streaming apps. They've got a streaming app that's great. Very, very impressed with this. There we go. Now what? Well, the benefits of Spreaker, they make it really, really worth it to me. Blog Talk Radio never did. The quality was never much. The platform was never much. The control was never much. The restricted nature of what they did just didn't excite me in any way. Again, I heard they're changing, but there we go. Spreaker, exciting, playing with it. That's why the two. Now, regardless of what platform I end up on, I'll be honest with you. If iHeartRadio called me and offered me a radio show, would I be on Spreaker here? No, not necessarily. It's the technology as the means to the end. And I think what happens is a lot of times is people pick up a certain piece of technology and they start to think that the technology is the answer when it's not. The technology is always the means to the end. When the technology is the answer, then the robots take over, and that's not something that you want. Now, I'll be honest, this is a test. I'm on here now because I'm testing it. 9 minutes and 28 seconds live into my first, live opportunity is there. I'll tell you, I'm intrigued. I'm excited by it. I've got a new Mac Pro that's about a gazillion times more powerful than it needs to be, so maybe that's part of it, but this platform really, really seems to go well. So why am I exploring Spreaker? It's getting the job for me done better right now than anybody else can. Thank you so much for the question. We'll chat at the next episode. Now, obviously, it's not the next episode. This is the live recording here. And I'm going to take this, chop this up into different segments. I spoke to that earlier, but that's what we're doing here. And I'll tell you, outside of that question, I'm pretty impressed right now with what Spreaker's bringing to the game. Thank you, Dave Jackson, for introducing this to me. I think in the future I'm going to try some sort of simulcast with Spreaker and Google, YouTube Live, that type of thing. I think that could be really, really interesting. So, yeah, let's go to the next question. I'm looking at the monitor here. Everything looks great. I'm definitely going to experiment with adding sounds and whatnot in the future. But man, I am happy. All right. With that said and done, let's go to the next question. And by the way, this next question is an amalgamation of a couple of questions that people asked. All of these are kind of different versions of what people asked, so kind of fun here. But great questions. I hope to get more of these. I think we'll have a good time. That's done. I'll take a pause. Editor, you can take this episode and then get it out there. If you had a video and an audio podcast, how would you promote them both? Now, we did an earlier question on this when we were speaking actually to YouTube versus podcasting. And I essentially answered that earlier question, well, I don't care. The platform's not important to me. The content's important to me. I want to make the content available on both. But the fact of the matter is audio and video podcasts are very different. They're very different worlds. They're very different audiences. So how do you promote these things? How do you change these things? And really, the so what here is if you're going to do this right, they do deserve different promotions. You know, the audio podcast world is very different than the video podcast world, which is very, very different than the YouTube world. And if you're going to go high and mighty with Paul's approach to kind of broadcasting everything out in all the different ways, you need to think about and you need to talk about how you do the different promotion. And that's key. So here's my question for you. Here's my big what if. What if it wasn't about the platform and it wasn't about the tech? What if it was all about just, well, the content? And the marketing starts to get interesting. This summer, went on a fun road trip with the family, and you know, we had the DVDs, we had the iPads with the movies and that kind of thing. But my dear wife wanted to do something a little bit more educational, something a little bit better for the mind. So we were thinking about a book on tape, or an audio book or something, and you know, I'm a huge fan of Mark Twain. I'm a big fan of the guy, and I'm thinking, you know, maybe we should take a look at that. And what we did was we grabbed Huckleberry Finn on Kindle, and Kindle gave us the opportunity to get an audio version of it pretty cheap. And the audio version, believe it or not, was by the guy who he's the intern in the show 30 Rock, and he was Fix-It Felix and Wreck-It Ralph. And the guy's an amazing audio broadcaster or audio talent. And it was a ton of fun. And we had a great time listening to this. Now, what was funny was my wife had never heard Huckleberry Finn before. Had never read it before. And she got excited. And at night, she was reading the Kindle version because she wanted to know where the story was going when we were listening to the audio. Okay, what does this have to do with broadcasting audio or video podcasts? Well, you see, what was important was Huckleberry Finn. Sometimes we were consuming it by audio. Sometimes we were consuming it by the written word. But what was important was not Audible, the company that had delivered the recording, or Kindle, the company that had delivered the paperback. What was important was Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. And this is where you market audio versus video podcasts. This is how you promote them independently. You promote the content that you have. If you make it about your topic, and you make it about who it is that you are and what it is that you're doing, then you can market all these things in all these different ways. Okay? As a podcaster, if your topic is, I'm not looking at something on my screen here, you know, memory sticks, USB memory sticks, and you have a whole show about memory sticks, there's going to be people who want video demonstrations. There's going to be people who want audio. They're going to want it live. They want to be able to ask questions. They're going to want written word. They're going to want all these things. What you do is you promote that you are the expert of USB memory sticks, and that's probably a bad example, but that's what it's at. Make it about your topic. Make it about the fact that there are a lot of ways to learn about your topic, about your content, and then the video, the audio, the Kindle, the streaming, all these things, they just happen independently to each other, and it's really, really cool. So just promote it in the form that makes the most sense to the audience, and they're going to do really well. Make it about your topic, not about your technology, and you will be in a great place. So, question, if you had a video and an audio podcast, how would you promote them? I wouldn't promote either. I'd promote the topic to an audience that is interested in the topic and let them know that we have video versions of the content they are looking for, and that we have audio versions of the content we are looking for. I'm going to let them grab it when and where and how they want. I'm going to serve them, and I'm going to do better as a result. Thank you so much for the question. All right, that was fun. Hey, I just saw Ray Ortega jumped on here. Ray, thank you for jumping on this live. I appreciate that, buddy. I appreciate that a lot. Ray just asked if I've tried Mixler, best audio only. I have not tried Mixler. I'll tell you, Ray, the main reason I'm doing this, buddy, is I'm doing this because of the iHeartRadio connection. That is what is bringing this to the front. I might now that you've recommended it, Ray, I might do it myself, but man, this is impressive so far, and the computer seems to be doing so, well. And what's amazing here is, my concept here is proven itself. I mean, I got Judo listening to me, I got Ray listening to me live, and I'm going to have, the audio version of all of this going out to people who jump into Spreaker, and then I'm going to have the individual questions going out on the Ask Paul Colligan podcast, and gosh darn it, I like what's going on. So thank you, Ray. Thank you, Judo. If anyone else is in chat on this live and wants to identify themselves, I'm always thrilled with that. But with that said and done, let's go to the next question. Oh, this is going great. All right, I'm liking this. Our show is an entertainment talk radio podcast. We interview celebrities and people we think just simply are interesting. How should we market this since our show is not about one specific topic? It's a great question. And I think this is something that a lot of people looking to the internet have this question on multiple levels. It's not just a podcast level podcast question. It's a YouTube question. What if my show was just about funny stuff, or is just my reflections on life, or that type of thing? What if the topic is not easy to define? And quite simple, podcasts. I love podcasts dearly. I'm live broadcasting the world. To me, that's going to be a podcast, and we're having a great time here, but they're not always easy to market. And it's not always easy to define what you are. I mean, what do you call the show that is about a different topic any week? How do you market a show that is about a different topic any week? Podcasts are hard to market. But here's my what if. Here's the strategy behind all of this. What if you had an opportunity on your podcast, on your blog, on your YouTube channel, and whatever it is, what if you had the opportunity to make it not about the story, make it not about the show, but make it about the story, okay? Not the show, the story. And then what you do is you become known for being fine curators of story. I think about the This American Life radio show. What is that about? I mean, every time it's different. Yeah, they have the theme of This American Life, but, and maybe that's what you do. Maybe just call it, Life Today or Stories from Reality or something like that. But they've known for becoming fine curators of story. And people love finely curated story. People love that kind of stuff. It's a great market. And if you start to be known for that, you could be in a really cool place. And here's the thing. Here's where it gets powerful. Here's where it gets a lot of fun. You don't promote the show. You promote the story. Let's say you have a story about a guy who has seen The Princess Bride, 572 times. Okay, I'm just making this up, but it's my show. I can. So you got an episode about a fascinating guy who's seen The Princess Bride 572 times. The great thing is, The Princess Bride is a lot more famous than you are. The Princess Bride is a lot more famous than this guy is. And The Princess Bride is the connection that makes the story so fascinating. If I said it's a guy who had seen a movie that nobody's heard of 572 times, nobody cares. So what's fun here now is you've got a story about something that people are interested in. And this might be a press release kind of thing. This might be, I'm sure there are probably blogs and websites dedicated to The Princess Bride. You could probably let them know about your story, let them embed your episode or that type of thing. This is one of the things that Twitter's great about. There are fans of The Princess Bride, and I don't know why I picked this movie, but it works. There are fans of The Princess Bride out there who, are looking for Princess Bride related stuff on Twitter and inside of Pinterest and these types of places. Probably Instagram. There are probably channels on Instagram dedicated to this. And the great thing is this is what social does really, really, really well. Take a nugget, take a funny line, take a quote from this story that you told and promote the story, promote the quote, promote the connection, promote these things. Social is great for this. Twitter is great for this. And then what happens is the theme becomes the fact that you are the curator of the story. Hey, we found this really funny story this week. And then we found this really funny story this week. And then we found this really funny story this week. And look at us. We are the ones who find and bring funny stories. See how this works? See what the possibilities are here? This is what I would do. This is how I would promote it. And then each time you're in a different place, you might want to consider press releases, especially if it's about topics. You can always find a connection that's common for everyone. You definitely want to have blog posts. You definitely want to be found in social about this. Definitely play with Twitter. Definitely play with Pinterest. Definitely play with Instagram if this all makes sense. But yeah, don't make it about any individual episode. Don't make it about the name of your show. Make it about the fact that you are a curator of story. And you will do well. Public radio does well with this. The model is there for this. And you can do well too. Thank you so much. Great question. All right. That was fun. That's it for the questions. I got a couple of thoughts. And then I'm going to sum this up. If anybody in chat wants to say anything, I'd love to hear it. It's always... it's weird to do these things live and wonder if anything's listening. I'm looking at all the monitor and everything looks great so far, but always fascinating. I'm really curious if this is only happening at 11 kb. Judo said the audio sounds great, but I'm curious there. But there it is. I'll tell you this right now. A couple of thoughts. I know I've got some podcasters listening to this. This one was fun. I was able to find a bunch of themes about podcasting. And that worked great, but I'm not always going to find themes about podcasting, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do these live shows. I definitely don't think I'm going to go, live for each episode and record those independently. So maybe I'll find the theme after the effect and edit it or that type of thing. But there we go. So what's next for the Ask Paul Colligan podcast? Well, right now I'm going to probably get these episodes chopped up, have my editor do that for me. Right now, I don't see, the next couple of episodes going to Google yet. I'm going to play with Spreaker. I definitely want to take a look at sound effects, take a look at the mix and that kind of stuff. Probably do this with a headset next time. If you like this, please let me know. Here in chat is great, but most of you, statistically speaking, are going to be listening to this on recording. So comment here on Spreaker if you can. If you want to put that on Twitter, let me know. I'm at Colligan. My Facebook account, if you came from there, let me know. Just somehow generally reach out that this made sense to you, that you liked it, and we'll take a look at this as a future. If this does well, if I'm able to be of service to folk by answering questions, we will do more of these. So thank you so much for listening. The inaugural episode of Ask Paul Colligan. This has been a ton of fun. Talk to you soon. Bye.